Hello, beautiful people. Welcome back to our channel. A lot has happened ever since Senator Yinaya Baribe um assigned a shorty for Mazi Nnamdi Kanu. A lot of things have happened. He has been exonerated, but people are still wondering, honestly, what is the relationship between between Yinaya Baribe and Mazi Nnamdi Kanu and IPOB, judging the fact that even when IPOB is getting very hot and getting very angry, rarely do they mention Abaribe into the matter. In fact, is there anybody that does not really like Abaribe? He speaks for the people. He has the mind of the people. But then there's still some persons really who believe that he has sinister plans. Well, before we go into the news proper, we'd like you to subscribe to our channel by clicking on the red subscribe button. Beside it, you see a bell notification icon. Please go ahead, click on it to get notified as soon as you update our channel on YouTube. Well, except a very long interview, and this is what he has to say. When they asked him, Alibo is boiling and that is not typical, what do you think is the problem? He answered, whatever I say, I am also complicit. The basic thing we have in the South is that a, a lacuna was created because those who ought to have dominated the space with proper leadership did not, and so it was now filled by non-state actors, and what we now have is a situation where we are scrambling to keep up with where the people are at the moment. So there is this whole thing going on, and it started with the ill-advised actions of federal government in treating people who are legitimately aspiring for whatever they feel is their right in such a brutal manner that you tended to radicalize people. And we had warned at that time, when things were going this way, what you do is to say, let us sit down and talk. But we had a set of leadership who had a feudalistic hangover in which those at the lower class are not supposed to talk, agitate, or say anything. And I think that colored the response to legitimate aspirations and agitation. And so rather than applying diplomacy, tact, and using discussions, people were murdered by the state, and with each incident, we simply continue to build resentment among the youth in the Southeast. Now, when you couple it with the infrastructural deficit in the Southeast and the fact that the federal government at the same time also applied nepotistic strategy of saying that the commanding height of security and everything else will be domiciled in the hands of people from one part of the country, what you simply did was to stoke the embers of fire that was already simmering. And so the concomitant thing is really that these youth will ask themselves a question: if you are down, you don't fear no fall anymore. And so those of us who are leaders were now in unenviable position of having to mediate both with them and also with the federal government, who rather than understand what leadership was going through, tended to blame the leadership for pandering to whatever whoever is there on the ground. So everybody was in a catch-22 situation. On one side, the federal government is saying all of you are part of the agitation, and on the other side, the youth are saying you are part of our problems and you are hobnobbing with the oppressors. So you could see how the whole thing has turned the Southeast into a hotbed of problems. Now, when the rendition of Nnamdi Kanu happened, that poured fuel on the fire and has escalated it. And because of the feeling among the populace that they have not been well served by their leaders, even leaders from the zone are finding it difficult to calm down the populace while seeking for solutions. So it has been a hard struggle. And of course, when it is also coupled with political differences, we now see that coming together to resolve the issue becomes a lot more difficult. They asked, so is it a hopeless situation? He answered, no. I'm glad that everybody has come to the realization that we all need to sit down and talk through it. That is all that we have been saying from the beginning. Everybody has come to the realization that any incident that happens cannot be blamed solely on a particular group or the other, because right now all manners of miscreants, armed robbers have taken the toga of IPOB, and any atrocities that is committed is now attributed to them. When it was compounded with the stay-at-home orders that even made life more difficult for average people in the Southeast, and what we did from the back was to engage and engage and engage. And we were engaging in order to get things to calm down. We were also doing public advocacy. You remember that I was in the Anambra during their campaigns, and I went around talked to the people of Anambra, and I talked to all Igbos and said, we cannot hurt ourselves. We must have to make a choice, and that choice cannot be obviated by saying let us not vote, because that will not help anybody. I'm glad that our people listened. I'm glad that IPOB people called off their sit at home. The election held peacefully, and the winner had emerged. And so the process of healing can now start so that we can get ourselves back to what we were, which is an industrious people geared for success within the country called Nigeria. Then I asked him a question. The Southeast Caucus in the National Assembly recently made a move in the Nnamdi Kanu matter, seeking a political solution. Where are you on that journey? He said, we are still on it, but we are keeping it under wraps because it is not something that you do in public. But the consultations with all groups, the federal government, state government, traditional rulers, the clergy, agitation groups, because it is not only IPOB, other groups are also there, actually are going on as well. And I'm glad to say that everybody is coming to the realization that we cannot destroy ourselves in seeking for a fair shake in Nigeria. The understanding has been very tremendous, and I must commend all those that have put forward themselves to be part of this resolution, because it is not something that you can finish in one day. And because the court case is also ongoing, it is something that we have to be approaching in a sequential manner, one step after the other, until we get a proper resolution on everything. They asked him, are you an IPOB sympathizer, as has been insinuated in certain quarters? He answered this question by saying, I tell such people that I'm a justice and equity sympathizer, because at every point, whenever you speak up for the downtrodden, whenever you speak for the person who has no voice, whenever you stand firm and say what is wrong, the knee-jerk response of those who feel that they ought to be in the good books of government is to try to label you one thing or the other. When the DSS arrested and detained me and searched my house, what they what they were looking for was for IPOB paraphernalia. They thought I would have all those things, but they were sorely disappointed. As much as I speak with IPOB, I try I try to make others to see their point of view. And in any case, like I said earlier, what people see that really symbolizes this government is its inability to utilize diplomacy in its dealings with the constituent parts of the country. Wow, this is quite interesting. A whole lot has been said. He went further to say that at every point you confront them and say, why don't we try to find a way of doing something in a better way? You are hammered with anti-Buhari toga. And I think that if we must have a viable union, all interests and opinions must become accommodated within this country. Where you want to enthrone only one view or opinion, we are likely going to run into problems. That is why you have agitations all over the country, because those who are running the country now are not taking everybody's interest into account. Then I asked them, what relationship do you have with MNK? This was his response. I was the person that went when Justice Nyako made a condition for his bail. To be a senator of the Federal Republic among the three people, I signed this bill, his bail bond, and I saw him as a younger brother that we can sit and reason with. And I actually sat and had discussions with him. And I think that his matter was poorly managed by the authorities, because the authorities just felt that, oh, anyone who raises his hand or his head, you slam him in jail. And when you do that, it will stop whatever. If they had approached it in a different way, we probably would not be where we are today with him. And I still think that you can still have a discussion with him and reach reasonable compromises, yes. I still think that it's possible. That is why I support those who have been saying that rather than continuing along the path of legal tussle, that the option of having political solution may work. I had canvassed this opinion even before he was rendered into Nigeria, and I have spoken with high officials of this government on the need for us to have some discussion. But I also warned that at the time in my discussions with them that a triumphalistic approach to the issues of Nigeria will not bode well for the country and for those who have temporary advantage now. Because if you are in power, it is for a set period. You will ultimately have to leave office after 4 years or 8 years, as the case may be. Well, wow, I guess he has elaborated everything.